Welcome, everyone, to episode 101 of Dialing the Gate. Dial the Gate. 101, and I can't even get the name of my own show right. Dial the Gate. My name is David Reed. Thanks so much for being with us here. Joseph Mallozzi, writer and executive producer of Stargate SG-1 Atlantis Universe, is with us, ready to go here. So this is a brand new season, Season 2. And I appreciate you being part of it. I am so thankful that we are almost to 20,000 friggin' subscribers. I had no idea that was going to happen over this summer. So very thankful for all of you being here. Interested to see how many show up in the live stream this weekend. We have Joe right now. We have Colin in a couple of hours. And then David Hewlett 1 hour after that. So if this is your first live stream, this is how we do it. Join us in the YouTube live chat if you want to submit questions for Joe. Those questions are going to take up the second half of our presentation today. We have moderators standing by, collecting those questions and sending them over to me. And so that's what we're going to used for the second half, so we're going to get your questions answered. For the first half, it's me and Joe. We're going to catch up a little bit. We're going to talk about a couple of things. Season 2 of Stargate Atlantis is the focus for this particular episode, because we've been going through the entire franchise with him a season at a time. It's been a really refreshing retrospective to process to have. But before we get started, if you like Stargate, and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it would mean so much if you click that like button. It really makes a difference with YouTube's algorithm and will continue to help the show grow its audience. And please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click that subscribe icon. Giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. Clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next several days on both the Dial the Gate and GateWorld.net YouTube channels. And stay tuned after Joseph Mallozzi. We're going to take a look at some of the new pieces of hardware that have been submitted by fans, and I want to give them credit where credit is due, and may give you a peek at something else if you're really good. Joseph Mallozzi, writer and executive producer, Stargate. Welcome back, my friend. How are you? 101 and 10. So you make up 10% of my show, and it's a good 10%. So, I wouldn't that be great? No. Jeez.
Because I feel as though give it another year and I'll remember even less. It's funny because I frequent the Reddit, the Stargate subreddit, and occasionally someone will have a very specific question about an episode I wrote. And I'll obviously not remember the episode, but I will not remember the details and be unable to answer the question.
Summer, I've got it fixed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's particularly, it's not like you guys didn't do just a little bit of content over the years. You guys, I can't imagine, coming in the beginning of every single season and going, okay, what haven't we done? And what you've indicated before is that, so much of it was built on what came of every season was built on what came before and informed so much of what you did next. But I would still be like, I've got to try something fresh, or I'm just gonna, bash my brains in on this, because you can't. Not everything can just rely on something that came before. You want to always grow as a writer and as a creator.
Yeah, but I mean, it's something I mentioned in previous episodes that writing Stargate became actually a lot easier because we had built that backstory and those various storylines that we could go, and kind of mine moving forward. It's those standalone stories, while fresh and exciting, they always prove very challenging to come up with.
On looking back through this journey that we've gone together, do you find the standalone stories stand out a little bit more in your positive category in your mind in going through these, or more of the ongoing A to B to C to D arc stories?
Personally, for me, I always find the standalone stories stand out the most. I look at episodes like Window of Opportunity. We did, almost all of them in our first season 4 of SG1 were all standalone stories. The Curse and A Point of No Return. But I look at other standalones like Revisions from SG1. That's one of my favorite. Ripple Effect is another one of my favorites. And one in Stargate Atlantis Season 4. I always forget the
Information.
the
Tabula Rasa?
name. No, it was the one. We did 3 different storylines, and I explored Woolsey's love life with the
with the sentient
Yes.
Sakari.
yes.
Sakari Atlantis. That was the episode Remnants.
Remnants. I always say it starts with an R.
Remnants.
Yeah, and that was one of those particularly satisfying episodes where it's a standalone, and yet you've got multiple storylines going on that find a way to dovetail at the end. Those
Correct.
were always my favorites.
And you have it's also another example of what you can do in this genre that you can't do in any others. I mean, you bring back Shepard's, as in my opinion, arch enemy, for a terrific coda, if you will.
Yeah.
So, but we'll get to that in a couple of
Right.
Season 2 of Atlantis was going on concurrently with Season 9 of SG1. This is your second season of doing 40 stories. Do you recall any feelings going into that for the second go around that, okay, we're not doing 22, we're doing 40 for another year? Paint a picture of what's going on in Season 2.
I liken it to when I had one dog, and then I got 2 dogs, and I was like, wow, this is very different. And then I got 3 dogs, and people would think, wow, that's even harder to do. And in fact, no, actually, 3 wasn't much harder. 3 dogs weren't really that much harder to take care of than 2. And it's much the same way. I mean, after that initial shock, and you adjust, you make an adjustment, and you learn how to produce 40 hours of television a year. And we did it. And we proved we could do it. So heading into the second season of Atlantis, and the ninth season of SG1, we knew that we could do it. So, I mean, there was really no pressure, although, I mean, looking at 40 episodes of television, heading into the year, it does feel a little insurmountable.
No one does that anymore, I don't think, Your horsepower also increased too with the number of staff writers that you had. It's important to point that out. How many staff writers did you guys have in Season 7 of SG1 versus, say, Season 2 of Atlantis? You added Martin Garrow. You added someone.
And Carl Binder came.
Carl came in. That's it. I'm sorry, Carl.
Yeah.
So that must have infused.
It absolutely did. I mean, whenever you bring a new writer into the room, they will, infuse the creative with kind of a whole new, spirit. And Martin and Carl, just great to work with, fantastic writers. And each of them had obviously their own strengths and what they brought to the show. And you look at their episodes, and, Martin did a lot of the big epic episodes, whereas Carl did a lot of sort of fantastic character-driven episodes.
Contemplative,
yeah. But I mean, great character episodes, and it certainly injected new life, I think, into the franchise as a whole.
I had Carl on in Season 1, and I would probably have to say Before I Sleep is up there in terms of my favorite one that he did. And we were having the discussion about that episode, and I love just the nucleus of the idea. And he turned to me and said, actually, that was Joe's. What if the first time that we experienced this is not the first time that it actually happened? He said that was your idea.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't recall. That's very kind of him to say, though. Yeah. To be honest with you, it's just, you know, there's so many stories that have been done before that you can just find like a little twist, just to make it different. And you know, if I came up with that idea, great. But at the end of the day, he wrote what was, I think, one of the best Atlantis scripts over the show's 5 seasons.
Season 2 comes in. We've had the almost obligatory at this point for Stargate. Main enemy has come to attack us by season end of season 1. What do we do? We fought them off. It's just one of those, in this context, you know, in this story that you do, just kind of the story that has to be told. Right. We introduced the Daedalus. So yes. I think you guys expanded the spaceships, the Prometheus set for the Daedalus in season 2. Am I not mistaken about that? Definitely the bridge was redesigned. Right.
Yes. I mean, just because we wanted to make more of, kind of expand our world a little, we did. Although, I mean, I look back on it, and even though we did expand the set, I feel as though we were still walking through the same, 25 feet of corridor. And I remember it was, I forget which episode it was, but it was Martin Wood, and how he would do the walk and talk, and they'd be walking along. And if you're watching the show, they're walking along and they take a left, and they end up walking, they take a right, they take another right, they take a left, and it looks all very different. But really what was happening was they were doing the walk and talk. And as we were shooting the walk and talk, the set dressers were adjusting the turn so that instead of like a left turn, we would take a right turn, and flipping out, switching out plaques, and making the corridor look different. So it was essentially the same corridor
in real time.
Walking down, yeah.
Wow. The only time that I remember, and this is a quick aside, the only time that I remember going, okay, guys, come on, is in the season 4 finale Exodus. Carmen is, I can't remember which SG team members. They're doing a circle on the Goa'uld set. I mean, they're making 4 90-degree turns, and they just keep on going. And it's like, okay, where are you going? But what a gorgeous set. And you guys added to that over the years, with plexiglass pieces and everything else. And I think you really got a lot of mileage out of that. The other thing that you guys got a lot of mileage out of is a certain actor by the name of, I think his name is Momoa. Jason Momoa.
Yes. Yeah.
So, first impressions of him.
It's funny. We were looking for a new character, and Rob Cooper, I think I mentioned this before. I mean, we were all fans of Survivor, and there was a character called Rupert, who was kind of a fan favorite. He was kind of this happy-go-lucky, almost, sort of huge guy, kind of larger-than-life character. And he's like, I want a Rupert.
In Survivor.
Well, he was a character. He was one of the contestants in Survivor, but he wanted a Rupert-like character for like this bigger-than-life character. And we were looking to cast, and I remember, we were looking, and then Rob's like, this is the guy. And we saw Jason Momoa, and it was perfect. And we're like, this is the guy. And MGM was like, actually, no, we like this soap opera actor. And we're like, no, that's not the guy at all. And of course, Rob went, to battle, and we ended up casting Jason Momoa, and one of my favorite characters, obviously, on Atlantis, ended up writing some.
So was he an offer, or did he submit a tape?
I believe he submitted a tape.
Okay.
I mean, I think he was coming. What did he do? North Shore and Baywatch?
Baywatch was the only thing I remembered him on, and I'd only seen it like a couple of episodes. It's like, oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah.
So, I remember Brad saying we wanted him to be dangerous. They really had this kind of, I don't know if the Chewbacca thing was intentional with Shepard.
No, that was not. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I would say that was not intentional. In fact, actually, that line calling him Chewie was an ad lib by Joe Flanagan.
Of course it was. Jeez. Did you think that how do you feel about how Ronan's character evolved over the series? Do you think you guys took him interesting places? Do you think you didn't do enough with him, or do you think it was a good balance?
I think it was a good balance. I mean, look back at the episodes we did. We explored his backstory. We showed like different sides of him. I know Jason would often come by the office and he'd be like, I want to go. For instance, he said, I want to go dark side next season. So I was like, okay, fine. And so we ended up doing Broken Ties, I think.
Yeah, and season 5.
And that, I think that was probably his best performance on Atlantis, because he did it all in that episode. Did dark side, kind of went through that kind of like weird withdrawal at the end of the episode. So I mean, definitely I would say he got his share of the spotlight, just simply because I love the character and I enjoyed writing for him. So I mean, I certainly did my part.
Absolutely. And you look at what Rob did in season 3, basically giving him a movie with Satita. There was a lot of road to cover there. Let's take a look at some of your episodes this season. So the Siege Part 2, was season 1. The Intruder. This is
the Siege Part 3 though. Sorry, that was Martin Garrett. Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, The Intruder. Yes.
The Intruder. So this is almost a bottle show in and of itself, because they're on the spaceship going back, taking the 2-week journey back to Atlantis. What was your approach for Intruder and the Wraith virus?
I think we wanted to sort of create one of those locked room mysteries. And, what better way to do that than in a spaceship? I mean, you can't get any more isolated than that. So that was kind of fun. And again, it was an opportunity to show off our new set. And
And you're tying up a lot of loose threads from season 1. We're resolving. Shepard is now a colonel, and we're resolving Weir's relationship with Simon. And there's just a lot of closure there. Shepard visits. I was just about to say Rainbow's family. Like, that's wrong. It's Ford's family, and explains what happened as best he can. There's the slower moments of that episode. I'm the bigger fan of, and I would argue that Atlantis didn't do slow nearly as much as like SG1 or Universe did. It was much more of an action focused show. But when you got those actors sitting down in a more comfortable setting, not running and gutting, given the script, they could act.
Yeah, I mean, it's always very satisfying to be able to explore aspects of the characters, their backstories, their side stories, their relationships, or obviously over the course of various seasons. But, just like you said, having Shepard go back and see Ford's parents or Ford's family dealing with Weir's fallout with Simon. They're essentially housekeeping beats,
right?
Really, they all go to character, and at the end of the day, as I've often said, viewers will tune in for the hook, but they stay for the characters.
Right.
And Stargate fans love the characters, and just anything you can do to sort of shed some light on these characters is always greatly appreciated. So, I mean, I agree with you. I always prefer the character moments over the run and gun, or obviously, even like the mystery element of this particular episode.
Having said those things, the show also stretches its legs with the F-302s. We get really an extended dogfight between a couple of F-302s that was really a lot of fun to watch. The visual effects of Atlantis were really beginning to come together.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark Savella, supervisor.
Absolutely.
I mean, It's funny that you can look back and, every year the look of the show just evolves and progresses. And of course, that also has to do with the fact that you bank those visual effects, the ships and what have you. So you don't have to spend money on another Daedalus. You already have it modeled, so you can spend money on bigger and better stuff. I mean, that was always the great thing about science fiction, is sort of every year from a visual effects standpoint, you top the year before.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This season also introduced the probably one of, if not the core villain for Atlantis. Connor Trinneer came in and played a human that turned out to be a Wraith. And anyone who was reading spoilers at the time knew well in advance what was going on before the episode. This is the thing that I hate about spoilers. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why do these things leak? And if you haven't seen season 2 of Atlantis yet and you're watching this, I'm sorry. But it was one of the coolest reveals that you guys did over the years. Tell us about that.
So that was interesting, because when you mentioned Carl saying, I came up with the idea for Before I Sleep, originally the plan for Michael was they captured the Wraith, they were going through the experimentation, we're reading the pilot, and it was good. We were reading the outline, and it was good, but I was like, what would be cool if we don't know, the audience doesn't know. And so rather than introducing the test subject from the beginning, we don't know what's going on until that mid-episode reveal, where you get that horrific shot of the Wraith of Michael, original Michael. Yeah. It's just kind of a small thing, but it just brought that episode together. And I mean, Carl is such a fantastic writer, especially when it comes to character. Yes. And you felt sorry for the character, yet at the same time, you feared him. And, it was a very nuanced character, and Connor Trinneer did a fantastic job.
Well, what's the thing that separates sci-fi from other genres? Sci-fi is about ideas. And that's the core distinguishing factor, in my opinion. And you have a chance, by adjusting the narrative direction, just like you're turning like a telescope, to change the focus on instead of on our allies, on our enemy, and have us really sit in his shoes for a little bit here and say, okay, the Wraith, did they ask to be the way they are? We eventually find out the ancients made them. They didn't ask to be this way, but they are what they are, and they are, it's a crappy situation.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, it puts us in their shoes and allows us to, if not empathize, then certainly sympathize with them a little. And that's why I think in subsequent seasons, the Michael character garnered such a huge kind of fan support, because in a way, kind of, they felt sorry for him and they understood him, even if they didn't necessarily excuse his behavior.
Well, sure. Absolutely. The Tower.
Yes.
I loved the idea of another city.
Yes. Yes.
And that it was taken over by the pettiest of people.
Yes.
Jay Brazeau is back.
Yes. Yes. And who's the actor? Brendan.
Darren was a huge fan of this guy. Let me see here. The bald gentleman.
No.
No?
No.
Let's see here. I'll pull it up for you.
Please.
Peter Woodward, Jay Brazeau, David Bloom.
Great.
Brendan Fraser, Tavius.
Yes.
Brendan Beiser. Beezer?
Brendan Beiser. Yeah,
Beiser.
Yeah. Yes. Fantastic. I just for him, that episode stood out for me. Now that one, I at this point in our Stargate run, Paul and I were writing our scripts separately.
Okay.
So this was his script.
Okay.
That I think was a lot of fun. I love, like, all the performances were great, but Brendan's especially just really stood out to me. This episode I remember because the network hated it. And
they did.
Yes, we would get on our conference calls and talk to them. And I think we delivered the first draft, or Paul delivered the first draft, and they were like, well, we don't like it. And it takes too long for the action to get going. And so we tried to sort of talk it out with them, and they were pretty adamant. And then Paul, it's funny because when we used to be on conference calls and the network would give us notes, I was always the one who'd be like, I don't know if we can do that. Whereas Paul would always be like, oh yeah, we can do that. We can, yeah, no problem, no problem. And then when we sit down to do the rewrite, he'd be like, I don't think we can do this. But in this case, they just wanted to throw out this script completely, which Paul found completely kind of unhelpful. So, and he's like, well, what, and in situations like that, you always, if the notes are, I hate to say it, but not constructive, you look for the spirit of the note. What is it they're bumping up against? So he's trying to find that out. And it became a very combative situation on that call. And I was sitting there, and Paul's like, well, no, I'm not going to do this rewrite. And then the executive was like, well, we don't accept this episode. And Paul was like, okay, fine, then don't accept the episode, and hung up. And that was that. And I mean, we'd had conflict with the network on other aspects, creative aspects of the series.
But was that a peak of that? I mean, would that be?
It wasn't a peak.
Wow. Okay.
But it was one that stood out for me just because the extent of the note and Paul's atypical response to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So Joe and I are smiling at each other because there is backstory behind this episode. And I'm not going to speak too much about that, only to say that had Darren and I known that going in, I think in analyzing and reviewing that episode for Gate World, our approach, and in terms of what the reviewers that we had at the time were saying, I think probably would have been a little different, knowing the sensitivity to the hurdles that you guys had to overcome just to get the darn thing on the air. That's quite the story. You don't really think about those kinds of situations when you're watching. The number of people and processes that each script has to go through in order to just go in front of camera.
At the end of the day, there's no reason the audience should know that or need to know that. But I mean, it's different with every episode. It's different with every, I mean, I can tell you how many times, someone will comment on, I mean, I remember when we were working on Stargate, that fans would like, this writer wrote such a great episode. Why are they not being able to write more episodes? And in my mind, I'm like, well, actually, that writer was totally rewritten by Brad Wright.
Yeah.
Brad Wright wrote that script,
yeah.
But he's not going to publicly say that.
No, it's politics, and it's not right.
So
interesting. Yeah, no, it's having said all that, was there, out of genuine curiosity, was there any script that ever came along that the network said, leave it as it is, we love it? Or was it a group of people or a body that always just had to justify their existence?
I never recall an episode where they said, good job.
Jeez.
I will have to say, though, on the flip side, we had Charlie Cohen at MGM, as the vice president of, and he was a Stargate fan, but always an overall science fiction fan as well. And he was our biggest supporter, obviously within MGM, but he genuinely loved the show. He genuinely loved the characters. and he would always let us know, which I got to tell you, having been in this industry for so long, it's so rare for that to happen. I mean, it does happen, but it's rare.
What would he let you know?
I mean, just, I love this episode,
Okay.
or, this is great. I mean, even after Stargate ended, he would drop me an email out of the blue and he's like, I'm watching Dark Matter. I love Dark Matter. Melissa's great as too. And he's, like I said, just a very genuine sci-fi fan, a good guy. And a great executive.
He is. I would suspect. I've had the privilege of meeting him a couple of times, and just a standout guy. I'm hoping to get him on the show.
Oh, that would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Season 2 ends with Allies, which, you know what? Let me back up. Before we get there, there's a whole list of episodes that I'd love to get your thoughts on.
All right.
We brought Ford back, and really, if Rainbow's in the room, he would probably say that, and he has said before, that he got to act this season. He really found something for him to chew on that worked. How did you feel about the return of that character and the Wraith enzyme, and giving that character really his due this season?
Look, I mean, every time you turn a character dark side,
That's true.
he or she becomes infinitely more interesting, and the actor portraying them loves it. So, I mean, I agree. I found the Ford character a lot more interesting in this season. Just because. Obviously because he went dark side, but also, created that kind of very unique storyline for him that really set him apart. And as Rainbow said, he really, sunk his teeth into the role and that turn in the character.
One of Martin Garrow's more recognized episodes is Duet. And for me, this, for better or for worse, was an early sign of taking the show into a more lighter, frothier, funnier direction and tone than SG-1, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if I agree. I mean, I look back at episodes like Window of Opportunity and Point of No Return and Wormhole X-Treme, and I do think we never really did that many episodes like that on Atlantis. I mean, there's Duet, but then I think back to Harmony was another one. I remember being in the room for that one and really sort of, being very involved in the breaking of that episode just because I just love that premise. But I mean, also, Martin Garrow is a very funny guy, and let him do what he does very well, and that's convey humor.
That's absolutely true. And we had a great guest performance in that episode, and the name is blanking on me, so I am going to
Jamie
look
Ray
her
Newman.
up. Jamie Ray Newman, absolutely, who we saw once again in later on in the season with Critical Mass. Was there ever a hope or consideration to bringing her back after that?
Again, most characters, you always have the best of intentions when you introduce them, and they pop. And Jamie was terrific, and I really liked the character. But I mean, as production is such a machine that sometimes creatively you end up heading in another direction, and the storylines that you may have wanted to pursue suddenly become unpursuable, if you will.
There was a rumor I heard. I thought that this was actually, I think this may have been confirmed, that at some point in the script for Grace Under Pressure, she was supposed to be the officer in the front part of the jumper that sacrificed herself for McKay.
Yes, that does sound familiar.
Yeah. And then you guys changed that just in case you wanted to bring her back.
Yes.
Jeez. All right. The long goodbye. That was another one of my favorites for that season, giving Tori a chance to run and gun.
Yes, tearing it up.
Absolutely. It's just another great sci-fi premise. It really reminded me a lot of Let That Be Your Last Battlefield from the original Star Trek series, where you've got two people who just aren't going to put an end to their struggle and are just going to basically do whatever they have to do to wipe themselves out, even if it means putting another civilization or a group of people in their way. So,
yeah, now that you mention it, definitely has that feel. Yes.
Allies. We wrap up the season with the wonderful return of Andy Frizzell, who had been back for the mid-season two-parter, and James Lafazanos as the various Wraith. He plays a Wraith scientist in this one. We are creating a substance which turns the Wraith human, and they can then turn around and eat those humans. Pretty
dark,
shaky water. Yeah, absolutely.
Ethically ambiguous.
Right, exactly.
Suspect.
Who do you recall who came up with that original idea? I mean, I guess it was kind of grown out of the idea for the Hoffen drug. If we can protect ourselves from them, maybe we can transform them to erase the Iratus bug.
I do not recall who came up with that one. I don't think it was me.
I don't think it was me.
Yeah. But I love those types of situations, those kind of, I guess, morally ambiguous scenarios. Like, I think it was season 3 or 4 where Shepard makes the decision to feed this kind of dying man to the Wraith, or okays the decision. It was very dark, and I remember the fans complained. But I do like placing our characters in those ethical dilemmas.
That was Miller's Crossing, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
The other one that continually gets me is Fran creating a sentient life form as a bomb.
Yeah.
So, and that performance was so wonderful that you guys brought her back in season 5, which I thought, bringing that character back in some way, or actress back, was just dynamite.
She was fantastic. Was it Morgan?
Yes, Michelle Morgan.
Michelle Morgan. Yes.
There you go.
Fantastic, yes. My memory's not. It's only 50%.
I think you're doing just fine.
Yeah.
Joe, this is terrific to go through this season and pull out all the little pieces.
Yeah, this was a sort of a lighter Atlantis season in terms of writing for me, because I was, at the time we were doing both SG1 and Atlantis, and we'd brought Carl on, we'd brought Martin on, so they'd done most of the heavy lifting on Atlantis, whereas I really focused more on SG1 at the time. What season was this?
This would have been 8? Season 9 of
9.
SG1. So, I mean, in many ways, it's the new show. It was essentially Stargate Command, and you've got a whole expanded sandbox to play in there.
Yeah.
So, what would a typical? I don't think I've ever really asked you this, and I was curious. How often would all of you meet together to hash out stories? Was it a specific section of a week or the season, or would you meet every day for X hours to do XYZ?
Not at all. It was never that. It was never scheduled. The problem was that we were constantly writing, or if we were not constantly writing, they were constantly prepping episodes. If we weren't prepping episodes, then we were either in post on episodes or dealing with what have you. So, to be honest, it was half the time. Pardon me.
You're all good.
Half the time, we weren't able to get all of us together. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like, for instance, there'd be times when, for instance, Martin would have sort of an idea, and he would want to spin. So we would just go around to every office and say, "Hey, I want to spin. are you available? And, would be writing a script, and I'd be like, sure, I can take some time off. And we'd head into the room and we'd spin for a few hours. So more often than not, that's the way it worked. Now at the end of every season is when we would all be able to get together, because at that point, more or less our work was done, and we would be able to all concentrate on, the look ahead to next season. And then when we came back, that's when we would be able to sort of get together. And then as sort of the production machine rolled along, we, all kind of went our separate ways, and became harder and harder for us to sort of convene.
Wow, I didn't really look at it that way. I always assumed that you guys were in constant meetings all together as a group. But that's not necessarily really efficient, depending on the process.
No, because, as I pointed out, Rob could be writing a script, while Brad could be in meetings prepping an episode, while Martin could be on set dealing with the episodes of shooting, while I would be maybe in editing, finishing up posts on another episode. So, by the nature of the production machine, it was very rare for all of us to be free at the same time.
And I'm sure all of you are, like doctors, on call to be ready to put out any kind of half a dozen, 2 dozen fires, quote unquote, that may come up in production that you have to tackle, drop everything and tackle immediately.
Yes, exactly.
Or like something downstairs on set is not working. We've got to revise this portion of the script, or so-and-so's not getting out of the others, out of their trailer until other so-and-so does, which I don't think happened that much on the show.
No. That was more sort of a John and Ponch thing from Chips, I think.
Absolutely. But man, what a ride.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And in all of that, dealing with the weather of Vancouver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go to fan questions.
Great.
All right. So thank you all for being so patient and submitting. Let's see what we got here. Jordan Edmond wanted to know, Joe, how did the tower become so covered with mountains and buried? Was it just there over time, or was there something else going on, you think?
No,
in terms of the setup for that episode?
Yeah, no, the idea was that it had been there a good long time. Okay. And you're right. In terms of a premise, I look back and on the various stories we did, and that was one that I think we could have exploited more, and really, I think kind of delved into beyond the episode we did.
I honestly think that it sets up a larger question that really should have been answered before the end of the series and wasn't, because if Atlantis is considered to be the crown jewel of the ancient domain, what was this place? And if it was, at least the command tower is certainly the case, was it identical to Atlantis, or was it like I can't remember if it was, I guess it was an exact duplicate of the city. I always imagined that there was like some kind of sci-fi explanation where the city had been twinned somehow, and that was just, it was a fluke, that it was perhaps actually an Atlantis from an alternate reality. So Atlantis really was the crown jewel of the ancient domain.
Yeah.
But something funky had happened, and we got more drones.
Yeah.
Jet Ison, I know you did a few guest spots, but could you see yourself taking on a recurring role in a future series?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I could do something like, like a Boba Fett, where I'm pretty much covered all the time.
Right.
And
you're taking part in it.
Yeah. You can treat my voice, and I wouldn't have to convey a wide range of emotions. So in that respect, I think that would be pretty cool. But outside of that, unlikely. But thank you for asking.
You excited about the Book of Boba Fett?
I believe we discussed this. I got off the Star Wars bandwagon with Return of the Jedi.
My apologies. My apologies.
So I don't even know what that is.
Okay.
I don't even know what that is.
Understood. That's all good. Gate Gab, does Suji have cosplay outfits from any of your shows?
Sadly, she does not have any cosplay outfits. My wife ended up making her a Nibbler outfit.
That's a cute
Nibbler
dresser,
from,
I'm pretty
Futurama.
sure.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So that's about the extent of her cosplay.
Oh, gosh, that's funny. Aurora, Goran Ananowski. Aurora was an excellent episode. Did you consider introducing more ancient warships to be found by the Atlantis team?
Beyond that episode, we did not.
Okay.
I mean, what often happens is, I mean, to be honest, if you pitch an idea for an episode, because you wrote it, more often than not, if it turns out well, you kind of, it's an idea you want to go back to. So for instance, I wrote Reunion for Jason, and Mark Dacascos was amazing guest star. And I just kind of loved that setup. So when Jason came in and kind of pitched Ronan going dark side, I came up with essentially the sequel to that episode and was able to revisit the episode. And the reason we were able to do it was because I'd done the episode and I loved the first episode and I wanted to do the second episode. So I don't recall who wrote Aurora. So if that would have been really more a question for them if they had really wanted to push it.
Let's have a look here.
Yeah.
That was... I know Martin Wood directed it.
Oh, Carl Binder.
Carl Binder wrote the teleplay, story by Brad and Carl. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've got... where is it?
Where is it?
One of the ancient stunners from Aurora.
I was going to say, hey, you're holding it upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ancient ice cream cones. Awesome. As soon as... Okay. So here's my beef with your continuity. Mm-hmm. As soon as you guys introduce
these things, my continuity or just
general your all the Stargate production.
Yeah.
As soon as these things were introduced, you should have found a cache of them in Atlantis, because Atlantean technology from that era, know. And look at this, still lights,
amazing,
original battery,
amazing.
Oh, and it says made in China in ancient, so.
Amazing. But
font substitution.
Also, a lot of it had to do with the cast members and what they felt comfortable wielding. So, for instance, we talk about the P90s and the fact that we use the P90s, whereas I think the military had moved past the P90s at that point. But we used them because the cast found them very comfortable, because the way they rested, they were always able to kind of rest their arms on the P90. So they liked the P90, so we kept the P90. So given a choice between a sidearm or one of those things, I think the cast would have much preferred the sidearms.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. Absolutely. And it may have just been standard issue on board the spaceships.
Right.
So that's completely fair as well. Yeah, I guess, when you think about it that way, creature comforts for the actors, they would have a lot of the last say on a number of different things, I would think, if given
their input, obviously.
Not necessarily last say.
Pop up again?
Sure.
Up, yeah. Okay, upside down. Yeah, it kind of looks like a one of those K-pop fan sticks,
K-pop.
Light up. Yeah. Are you a fan of Dreamcatcher? No.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right, never mind. Listen.
It looks like it's from Dairy Queen. Okay, this is going to be an interesting one to answer. Keith wanted to know, why did they never ask in the few times that they met the ancients how to charge the ZPMs? Never came up in conversation.
That's a very good question. I would imagine, how often did we end up meeting the ancients? I mean, there was Aurora.
Yep, there was Before I Sleep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there weren't a lot, but it's I would think
in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, that's true.
And we should have totally done a scene where and it's like,
absolutely.
You know what we should have done? We should have asked them how to recharge the ZPMs, and they're like, next, and then basically we do Aurora, and we do another, and it's like, oh shit. You know what we should have done? And he's like, yeah, you should have asked. And I'm like, okay, next time for sure.
That's hanging a lantern on it, right?
Yeah.
Well, the obvious answer is you don't want to blow that handicap, because then you're too powerful.
Well, that's an obvious
That's the real reason.
Yes, that's the creative production reason.
Right, but in universe,
the in story, in universe reason, has to be a little more believable.
Kappa's absolutely Kappa. Yeah, and there's at a certain point, and I had this conversation with Rob Cooper this past week for a pre-recorded show. He said at a certain point, you have to buy it. At a certain point, you have to accept the fact that there are only so many actors in Vancouver and they can't change their face every time they come on as a new role.
Yeah, I mean, who knew we would be doing 300 episodes?
I remember sitting in my bedroom when I at 15 years old, season 1 comes on in syndication, saying to myself, if they do the right thing with this, if they can change up the characters like MASH did, this thing could go on for a really long time. But I never would have imagined 300 episodes.
Yeah. It's funny, I recall Paul telling me that he was in a line, like some supermarket line, and there were these two actors talking in front of him. One of them was like, "Oh, I just booked a gig on Stargate," and the other guy was like, "Oh, I've auditioned for them like 3 or 4 times, and I still haven't landed anything for them." And he's like, "Well, from what I hear, they're done anyways this season. I think it was season 7 of SG1." But I think we did end up casting them.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, eventually. And
was it because you were? Was it?
No, it wasn't because.
Oh, it didn't help at all. It just happened to be coincidence that they cast them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Tom Macbeth shared a story where they were doing a read through for a script, and it was one of the earlier episodes where he was as Mayborn, and Michael Greenberg, who's Rick's other half, writer-wise, was and executive producer-wise, was sitting there, turning to him and saying, why did you never audition for MacGyver? You would have been great. And Tom Macbeth leaned forward and he said, I auditioned several times and you never gave me a freaking part. And he did it with a smile on his face, but it's like, sometimes the shoe fits and sometimes it doesn't, and you go with a different actor. And it's all there is to it. It's completely subjective.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You just have, sometimes you write a part and you have someone in mind, and sometimes you frankly cast the wrong actor. Yeah. And I told you that Evangeline Lilly story where she came in and auditioned and it was for a one-line role. And I was like,
let's not burn her
when she was first starting her career. And I'm like, she's fantastic. I'm not going to burn her on one line. And then she went off to do Lost, and that recurring Atlantis role went to someone else, but she did all right, and regardless.
Oh, absolutely, she did. But she would just been magic on Atlantis. Kirsty Green, was there a route you almost took a character down, but ended up changing your mind on where you took them in terms of their overall journey? I know it's kind of a broad question.
In terms of overall journey, I don't think there was like an overall journey that we had sort of mapped out that they wanted to fall through on. The only one of the roads not taken dealt with the whole Teyla pregnancy, and there was a brief internal discussion of making John the father that was quickly quashed. So in terms of creative, that was the first one that really comes to mind. But then in terms of other other paths, I can't really think of one.
That would have been a big one, and I'm trying to remember where you fell on that debate.
I was actually neutral.
Okay.
I at the time it was brought up, I thought it was kind of interesting, and I didn't even have a chance to really process the pros and cons. I think it was pitched, and I was thinking about it, and Paul at the time was like, no, there is no way we can make him the father.
And now?
I think that was the right call. I think it would have done a disservice to the character.
There's a certain amount of wanting to leave the characters detached. And then, you get the reverse is the opportunity of either disaster or true emotional payoff for said characters when you reach the end of the show.
Yeah.
And part of me would love to have seen that relationship get really, really tight. You know, imagine the prodigal with the scene on the rooftop with Michael battling the mother and the father of that baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the Stargate Extinction movie, I ended up killing off Kanan. And in the last scene finds Shepard and Teyla on, where was it, on the balcony of Atlantis, and he's kind of consoling her, and they're having like a quiet moment together with the suggestion that, who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, you're leaving a door open.
Yeah.
So we can only hope. Tracy. Hello, Tracy. Moderator Tracy. Joe, there are a lot of Dark Matter supporters in the chat. Any updates that you might be able to share with them?
Sadly, no. Okay. I think I had mentioned Netflix passed, sadly. So now it is in Jay Firestone's hands. He's the president of production on Dark Matter. So he is the one who sold the show initially. So he's gone out, and we're going to see what comes of it. I think, ultimately at the end of the day, and I hate to say it, but the easiest thing for me to do is set up another show and use the popularity of that show to set up a Dark Matter miniseries. So when that time comes, who knows? Yeah,
I mean, I totally get that. Take advantage of banking that popularity where you can, and saying, hey, by the way, we got this thing over here. Look at what George R.R. Martin did with Night Flyers. For better or for worse on the Night Flyers. Let's see here. Gary Jordan, after years of Stargate not having love scenes, whose idea was it to put one into the pilot of Universe? I wouldn't really call that a love scene.
Yeah.
It was kind of it was a real left turn.
Yeah, well, I think that was Brad and Robert. I don't know who specifically came up with the idea, but sort of their desire to really differentiate Universe from what had come before. Yeah, and really that scene certainly differentiates it tonally from the likes of SG-1 and Atlantis.
And to be fair, in my mind. For better or for, and there's going to be a lot of fans who are just going to disagree with me in many respects, and not because of that, but just tonally, Universe felt more real in a lot of ways for me in watching it. It just it felt like it just felt like, for better or for worse, that these characters were far more plausible to exist.
Yeah, I agree. It felt more real. But that doesn't necessarily mean real is better.
That's true too. That's a fair point.
I loved Universe, and I mean my wife loved Universe too. I was amazed by how much she loved it, and she couldn't really get into Atlantis. But just from a writing standpoint, I look at like Dark Matter owes a lot more to SG-1 and Atlantis than it does to Universe. Tonally, and it just I kind of like not necessarily the lighthearted tone, but the opportunity for humor, which I think allows you to kind of color a character in ways that more kind of straightforward productions that don't have humor have a harder time doing.
And it's a way to genuinely reach the audience, because anyone who's wanting to be entertained will at least be open to the avenues of humor. And I think that's one of the reasons that the franchise was as successful as it was, because everyone gets that.
Yes, I agree.
CJ Martin, no one broke the wall in the writer's room. If Joseph could have done it, who would have chosen to do it? Broke the fourth wall.
Broken the fourth wall? Huh?
Yeah, I think that you guys really pulled that off in 200. If we're talking, I mean, we're not exactly saying that, hey, I'm Richard Dean Anderson and I played Jack O'Neill in this episode, but there was a fair bit of winking and nodding
even
at the
Wormhole
camera.
X-Treme. I mean, we were really poking fun at everything's from, our executive, some of the creative input from
sexy
executives
female alien.
the sexy female alien to, spray paint those kiwis. What is it, purple or what was that line? That was an actual line from Peter Dellery's.
Bites into a painted kiwi.
So we did do a lot of that. No wall punching. I think in terms of production, our show was very different. Although I think I've often said just Stargate was always a very supportive atmosphere, even though it was like it could be very challenging at times. There was no there's no animosity between any of the writers and those in charge at the beginning. Very much Brad and Robert were always very good about listening to others and letting everyone have their opinion and say. But I mean, I would hear stories. Again, this was before the mood, the atmosphere changed in Hollywood, where showrunners would come in and they would throw scripts at writers and reprimand them. And, I can't imagine someone throwing a script at me. If somebody, regardless of who they were, if someone threw a script at me, they would be eating that script. I would eat it page by page.
Oh, jeez. Oh, gosh. Brian O'Neill Singleton. Was there ever a thought on pursuing a Goa'uld Wraith hybrid? This often comes up in fan
No, this comes up a lot of the
Yeah.
times, and I personally was never a fan of crossing the two shows.
Right.
I mean, having the occasional character come in, that was fine.
Pegasus Project
never
was
a huge
amazing.
fan, but yeah. No, it was a great episode, but I just, in general, I like to keep SG1 and Atlantis. So the idea of, of a sort of a cross, of a sort of a Goa'uld inhabiting a Wraith was kind of interesting. You just obviously would have to find the right story.
Right.
Like, what do you gain? How is a Goa'uld and a Wraith any more of a threat than a regular Wraith or a regular Goa'uld?
Right, exactly. You don't just want to do it just to do it. I mean, if the Wraith's handicap is hunger and the Goa'uld provides them with perhaps a satiation, there could be, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's the one thing that you guys, I think, did that was really successful, and it was within the same show, was in Dominion, I think, with putting Ball and Adria. But there was a story reason for that, and it was clever. And the question is, okay, Kit, does Ball override Adria's dominant personality? And the answer was yes. So that was really cool. But for how long, we never will know.
Right.
Wraith Hunt. Did you guys know at the time in season 3 that Todd would become such a liked and recurring character? Christopher Heyerdahl was a powerhouse.
No. Yeah. Chris was just incredible in the role. This is just a kind of another example of, you write a script, you create a character with the intention of them appearing in that single episode, and then usually by virtue of the actor's performance, this character ends up popping, and you end up bringing the character back, and you just enjoy writing for the character because the actor does so much with what you give him, and it just, like I said, kind of a symbiotic relationship, and the character evolves, and that was very much the case with the Todd character.
You've said that it's not just the writers or the actor; it's a combination of the two. You're observing what the actor is doing well, and the actor's pulling things off the page that you didn't necessarily always think, oh, I didn't necessarily intend it that way, or wow, they took that direction. They pulled it over the top.
Yes, and I mean, not just in dailies or in episodes, but in auditions as well. Whenever people lose auditions, they get depressed because they think, oh, it's, something I did. And I always tell people, it's not what you did or didn't do. It's what someone else brought to their audition. And it's exactly that you're talking about, where you're watching an audition and you wrote the scene and imagined it a certain way, and then the actor delivers it in a way that is totally unexpected, that delights you and sets their audition apart from all the others, and then you end up hiring them based on that audition. And more often than not, that audition tends to be a microcosm of what you are looking for in an overall performance in an episode. And in the case of Chris with Todd, I don't recall the audition, but I remember, what was the episode? It starts with a C. Was it Condemned?
His first episode?
Yeah.
It was in season 3. I think it was John Scalzi's story, if I'm not mistaken. It was... I
feel it was Condemned.
No, it's not.
No?
No.
Oh, Common Ground.
Season 2. Common Ground. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Yes. Sorry, the C. The one that starts with C.
Got it.
Yeah.
Was there any actor who you knew you were going to get and you were like, I cannot wait to put pen to paper for this person?
Besides Robert Picardo.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, he was, someone I'd wanted to work with for a long time. And when I got the opportunity, it far surpassed my expectations, just because, you see him on Voyager, and China Beach and all the other stuff he's worked on. And he's a
scene stealer.
He's fantastic. And you can give him anything to do and he will deliver it. And so in that respect, he surpassed my expectations, but also he's just a really, really good guy to work with. Just
absolutely
a pro, and just a very grounded, down to earth individual. So really, he's the one that readily comes to mind.
My best friend and I, we had until I left Phoenix, we had movie night every week. And last year I saw Inner Space for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And so the cowboy character that he did, I had heard about it, but I'd never seen it. Man, was that good. That was just great. Yeah. It's like, I've known this actor for years personally, and I've never seen this performance. Yeah. So Inner Space, I cannot recommend it enough if you're a Robert Picardo fan. He is funny.
He is great. Oh, so another actor I should mention is Ming-Na Wen, who we ended up casting on Universe. And of course, I've known from Joy Luck Club and various other performances. And much like Bob, just a pro, she would just, deliver time and time again, no matter what you gave her, she could do. And also just really, really fun to work with. Mm-hmm. Just a great, great attitude.
We've wanted to have her on the show. She's agreed, but it's just a matter of scheduling. So
right.
She's in the Book of Boba Fett.
Great. Great. Is that like an address book, or what is that?
I think it's I think the implication is similar to a biblical book, like this is his story, like the Book of Job. So
not an address book.
Definitely not.
Okay. That would be more fun. It'd be like Boba Fett loses his address book and sort of like, oh, what happened? And then basically, or someone finds his address book and it's like, we don't know whose address book it is. And anyways, I want to pitch that to Disney.
I think season 2. There you go.
Maybe. Yeah.
Sabina Pilchova, last one for you. Any regrets regarding a character or a storyline that it clearly hasn't gnawed on you over the years, but gnawed on you at the time? Afterwards, I was like, you know what? I really wish I could go back and tweak this one thing.
Yes, all the time, but I can't really off the top of my head. Basically, I would have loved to get Sam and Jack together. I know, some fans, would not want to see that, but I think, it would have been nice after 10 years, and it wouldn't have to be even overt. It's like, heading back home, Jack's making dinner or something, that I'm trying to think of sort of the kind of our various characters. And in terms of regret, I don't think so. I mean, there was some, no, I mean, I can only speak to ultimately sort of the stories in which I was actively involved. I mean, I can't say like I regret any of the ancient storylines because they're very much part of the mythology of the show. They're just stories that personally never interested me.
That's fair. I really wish that Anna Louise Plowman had come back. I really wish Anna Louise Plowman.
Oh, yes.
Osiris. I wish that there was a story opportunity that would have come back in as a coda. She was dynamite.
She was. Yeah.
So this has been a pleasure, my friend, having you on.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
And I thank you for taking the time, and I want to thank everyone for submitting the questions. Same time and place in December?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
I'll reach out to your agent and we will schedule that time.
Excellent.
Joe, thanks again. Many thanks for being a part of this journey with me and for taking the time with the fans. We all really do appreciate it. And you give that pupper a hug for us, okay?
I will. A big kiss on the nose.
Absolutely. I'll see you before Christmas. You have a good November, all right, sir?
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Take care of yourself. I'll close things out on
guys.
my end. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Joseph Mallozzi, writer and executive producer from Stargate SG-1, Atlantis, and Universe. And I promised to show you guys a few pieces behind me here from our new set. So, questions for me. Everyone in the chat want to know how you're doing and did you have a good summer? Thank you. I had a terrific summer. It was interesting. I had 4 months off from work and relocating from Phoenix to Nashville. I don't know if you can hear that dog barking outside, but I'm in a much more rural area now. And ironically, I have fiber now for the first time. I don't know if you're able to tell a difference on your end, but the speed at which I'm able to upload information is substantially faster. So things are going well. My life is a little bit more complicated than it was before. And I say complicated in that my weekends are going to be a little bit busier. So we are going to be taking weekends off here and there. I think right now the plan is to take U.S. Thanksgiving weekend off because I'm going to be out at San Diego Comic-Con Special Edition working on a project. So don't expect 100 episodes in Season 2. I can't do it. We may, hit close to that, but the velocity of the show will not be as breakneck as it was for Season 1, and I'm hopeful that the overall quality of the show will increase as well. So keep that in mind. Couple of things I want to show you guys. Firstly, new house, new set, and a little bit more of a tighter room, as you might be able to tell. So the stuff behind me is closer than it was before, and my hope is to rotate some of it here and there. This summer, I had some submissions from fans for the set, and I would like to show a few of those pieces to you right now. Later on this season, I'm going to be inviting these individuals on to discuss their work and their process and take a better look at the things behind us. But I wanted to give you a real quick look all the same here. This little fella is one that needs no introduction. His brother is still being mailed to me right now, the second kind of configuration that I think was introduced in Enemies, the smaller version. But this is the one that was introduced in... of course, Nemesis. This is a life-size replicator produced by Kevin Sabo and 3dtech.pro. And I'm just going to do one of these because it is a complicated piece of hardware. And one of my life goals of owning a replicator has been achieved. So Kevin did magnificent work. I mean, it's there are no words. It is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to put this back down. And I think those are still available at 3dtech.pro. This little guy, Naquita Reactor. This was submitted by Martin McLean. His Twitter is at SGAGateBuilder. And I hope to feature him later on this season. His pieces came in clamshell boxes, like military grade. Spectacular. And it lights. His work is so cool. This is a guy who you can tell cares about the minute details. That's the battery door. And I mean, that's, if you want to talk about really cool, I mean, even here, the backside of this is in ancient, and he's thought it all through. Just absolutely clever. And then he also has done his own version of the ancient scanner. So now here's the one that he has designed. Here's my battered to hell one that was used in production. And his actually works. So you can scan. And I think you can, it'll initiate an attack scenario. The dude is just freaking clever. And he put an Atlantis sticker on the back. He even put like a glow inside of the device itself. So it is one of the cooler replicas that I've seen, where he literally wanted to create like a device that is in the spirit of the actual device, and you can play with it, the buttons and toggles, and then it has that base station as well. And the version that I got has the clamshells. So it's Martin's done an amazing job, and I'm looking forward to having him on this season. A lot more fan interaction is going to be coming this year in terms of fans who have designed content, and I really intend to feature them more specifically. There is another fan that I have to give tremendous shout out to. Frederick Marcoux in Canada, drum roll please, has redesigned our website. Brand new website. So Gateworld was presenting us for Season 1. For Season 2, we are standing on our own 2 feet. And huge thanks to Darren for giving us the opportunity to work with him. The clips will continue to appear on Gateworld. Our partnership has not ended, but we're moving away from leveraging Gateworld's name recognition and trying to stand on all fours or all twos. Stand up straight. So that has taken off into a new direction, including rebuilding the website. So let me see here. Okay. Dialthegate.com is now live on its new website. And you can go to it just by dialthegate.com. So there's a couple of things here that are really cool. The upcoming shows are going to be on the right. Please, God, help me always have time to update that. We have an exclusive poll that's going to be available on the site. We're going to be using polls to help us flesh out a lot of the fan content as we move forward here. And you can see our most recent videos here. The live event counter is here, and I'm hoping to get more familiar with this interface so that we can always keep it fresh and current. And all of our current videos are below here as well in this really snazzy, pretty, colorful interface. So it takes advantage of all the rainbow colors that I kind of go nuts with, and you can see all of the content right there. If you want to look at individual episodes, and just pardon me, this is a Firefox issue. You can access them here. The interviews themselves from 1 to 101 are all listed here. So you have access to that. And you can also view them based on each of the individual playlists that exist on YouTube. The podcast. You guys have been asking, and I'm finally beginning to deliver. So we are now on iTunes and Google Play. So I'm at episode 22. I still have a little bit of a ways to go. Give me a couple of weeks on this to catch up, and all the backlog of content is going to be finally available in podcast format. So you are welcome. And this has been quite the task to figure out, but Frederick and I have managed to straighten it out. And so we've got that going here. In addition, we also have new merchandise and a new store. That is through my spread shop. So the merchandise is now launched, and there is a lot more content. I'd like to share a few of them with you. I'd rather be watching Stargate. I missed Stargate for this. I'm taking this loop off. Got Gate. Tok'ra in the streets. Goa'uld in the sheets. A Disney-inspired design for Atlantis. I knew Thor before it was cool. Shellkek Nemron in white and black design. I'm a Goa'uld without my caffeine in white and black design. And of course, Keep Calm and Dial the Gate. Those are just the first few additions that we have here. So here's the thing with the merch portal right now. On the website, it only displays each piece, each style, with only one item. And we're going to have to make a correction so that, like, it's the perfect analogy, burns as Goa'uld. Well, that's great, but I want that in something other than a man's t-shirt. I'm not sure how to get to that from here, other than to go to open it in a new tab, to go actually to the My Spreadshop portal and show more, and go down to that design. It's the perfect analogy, burns as Goa'uld. You had me at Indeed. I think that's the cutest thing. And Nintendo's passed through everything, of course. You can click here on the design and then see all the merchandise that is available in It's the Perfect Analogy, burns as Goa'uld. So what I'm trying to do, if we can update the website, is have it so that this page is the page that's default, the page that shows the designs. And then if you click on a design, you can then see how you can get that design in the various products. And then you can click on a product and customize your color and size and go from there. Because each product has numerous different designs. Like, so Lose It, Go Crazy, Nuts, Insane, Bonzo, No Longer in Possession of One's Faculties, 3 Fights Short of a Happy Meal, Wacko. It's been most commonly featured as a mug on the YouTube website, but you can get it in all kinds of different designs. So if you want to explore the designs, my recommendation is to go to dialthegate.com/merch, and then for the time being, open in new tab and then show more so that you can see all of the designs. And then if you click on a design, things are about to calm up. How about we name it later? Nintendo's passed through everything. Then you can see all the products that are available for that design. click on the product you want, and customize the color and size. So good luck keeping all that in your brain. But yes, so you can visit the merchandise at dialthegate.myspreadshop.com. And we appreciate your support. The show is 100% free. And so if you want to give back, that's a way to do it. Buy yourself something cool for the holiday season. I think that's all that we have for you here. My tremendous thanks to Frederick for helping us build out the website. Oh, let me show you his website just so that you have a look at that here. His website, if we go to our About page, is available through Concepts Web, and he is at conceptsweb.ca. He is our web developer. I love this guy. He's just terrific. He's been such a huge supporter of us. So big thanks to Mr. Frederick Marcoux. And a big thanks to my moderating team, Summer, Tracy, Keith, Jeremy, Rees, Anthony. You guys make this show possible. A big thanks to my producer, Linda Gategabber Fury. We've got Colin Cunningham coming up in a half an hour. We have him for 1 hour, and then we are bringing in Mr. David Hewlett, Rodney McKay. That's it. That's what we have for you. I appreciate you tuning in. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate, and we will see you on the other side.